I mean, I imagine just based on what I'm seeing today, it could win in like an 8th grade poetry contest.
No, yeah, absolutely.
You know, it's 8th grade. I mean, yeah, 8th grade's not college, but it's also not far off from that either.
Can you imagine getting beat by a computer in a poetry contest? And then your parents are like, "It's okay, honey." And HP beat you. It's
Yes,
like,
I don't
we get it.
like if I had to choose between reading a work written by a person versus a machine. I think right now I would lean still towards person, but at the same time, it's I feel like there's like a blanket like we can't accept this for our thing. Like I feel like that approach with technology almost never works. Like I feel like the sooner you can kind of start coming to terms with it and start preparing for it.
Well, I mean, so I think you're right in almost every field up until the creative field, especially when it comes to things like poetry, because I, like when it comes to poetry, maybe to a degree when we're talking about fiction, as well. I think you can maybe get away with it with nonfiction.
It's the most interesting because like nonfiction is probably the one that stays the most true to real life.
Yeah, but it's like I don't have any investment in your, I mean, to a degree maybe, but like the premise doesn't have a lot of investment in your imagination creating the world that is existing in the literature. So if I'm reading like, okay, this magical universe where there's this chosen one, like I don't know what all you would have to put into these prompts. Like, is it gonna spit out something like Harry Potter? Maybe, but not as good, I'm sure.
I don't know.
Or maybe that's the challenge, that it's listening to me tell it.
Yeah, no, I don't know.
But
I
yeah,
wouldn't. I would not be surprised if sometime within the next 5 years there's a book that comes out that was written by an AI that gets like worldwide recognition. Maybe not necessarily for like maybe there's still mistakes in the writing or something like that, but it's a full book that everyone knows that was written by an AI or predominantly written, maybe edited a bit by a person, but I would not be surprised that happens in the next 5 years.
even if it's inevitable, I would hope the poetry world at least tries to stop it for as long as we can.
But that sounds like such a like that approach sounds so.
Well, okay. Well, let me know. So, what benefit could it have to a poet individually?
What benefit does reading a good poem have to you? You know, if it's something that you can take and has an impact, you draw something from it, and it causes you to reflect on your own life in a way that you find meaningful. Does that matter then if it was work that was written by a computer versus a person? Or like, for instance, what if I mean, would you prefer written by a person that you don't agree with at all, or as like completely opposite morals to you? Like, or would you prefer some written by machine? Like, there's all kinds of questions we could ask. You know, like
You wouldn't consider there to be more merit because a person wrote it?
I don't know. I would say I'd be open to investigating that assumption.
Hmm. That's fair.
I don't know where I fall on it right now. You know, I think we're in uncharted territory right now. So I think it's kind of like one of those things that I don't fully know my stance on it until I see it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think the thing that I can see is, especially when we're starting to talk about journals, and when we start to talk about ways that the outside world would come in to invest in poetry. It's like a lot of it kind of spurns from, like, these are the creative people. You know what I mean? There's a lot of people that they don't, I don't want to say they don't have a creative bone in their body, but maybe there's a lot that don't, right? And so, like, they go and they resource the creatives, they resource the people that they're creating, like people that are far better and far more into the field than even like us. And they're like, okay, these are the people that, like, I don't know, that we would go to create whatever work that we would need, because we can't think of how to enter or broach this, like the phrases, and the
Mm.
way that they're putting words together are ways that I would never think to put words together.
And on the other hand, too, like in terms of like the computer programming, it's it's a model. It's modeled after all the people that you've read, all the people I've read, and more, way more. In fact, it's modeled after more people than we would be able to read in our lifetimes. So and that's I think in a lot of ways poets are the same thing. You're modeling after work that you've read.
Yeah, but it's like,
We're missing that lived experience. Is that the issue?
yeah, but it's also like, let's say we're both married, right? And not to each
I
other, but we're both there's separate people that are not here that we're each respectively married to, and so it's like you find your partner, right? And your partner is an amalgamation of their lived experiences, and so the things, every situation, person, and place that your partner has been a part of, all come together to be whoever they are right now, or like let's say like when you met them, like everything, and then you liked them when you met them, right? And so I think that part of it is like they would not be that exact person if they had, I I don't know, if they had 40 more, like let's, I'm put an arbitrary number, like if they had 40 more years of living and experience that they had when they met you, if you just added in 40 more years of lived experience into that person's body and mind, they they wouldn't be the same exact person.
Mhm,
And maybe you still like that person. You
mhm,
know what I'm saying? Like
mhm,
that doesn't say maybe you don't like that person.
mhm,
Maybe you still like that person. But it's just to say that they're not the same person.
mhm,
And a lot of the uniqueness and the things that you like, I'm sure, come from the exactness of who you're dealing with right there. You know what I mean? And so I think that like it's kind of the same thing when it comes to like writing. It's like trying to make the case that, oh well, poets, they can only have however many poems and like experience in their head as they can for like that exact person. But man, this algorithm, like, or this
mm,
this AI, like, it's read all these collective works of all these artists, like, you know what I mean? So it's like, is does that make the thing that it creates more special, or does that mean that you're an amalgamation of just more work? Because again, like, also like the emotional dynamic of what you're writing, or who you are when you're writing it, because like even if you have all those same exact words in your head and you have more that you can render, like what do you choose
mhm,
if you're having like a rough day? What do you
mhm,
choose if somebody just passed? Like, you know what I mean?
mhm,
So it's like there's a lot of other
mhm,
really specifically intrinsic things to the human experience that I
mhm.
think make creative works, to me at the very least, kind of like more off limits